I'm Rachel Monroe, 28 years old, and in the last 4 months, I've learned that a mother's deepest love sometimes has to be expressed with an unyielding firmness, even if it means facing anger and disappointment from the very people you're supposed to love. When my daughter Amara came into the world, her name Amara was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. It means eternal in a language I adore, and to me it represented a promise of unending love, a fresh start for our little family. My husband David, who's 36, loved the name too. We'd spent weeks, even months, sifting through options, carefully choosing it, pouring our hopes and dreams into those syllables. But within days, my mother-in-law, or Emma as I've come to think of her, turned that beautiful name into a battleground. "Amara," she'd scoff, a wrinkle forming between her brows, her voice sounding as if she'd just tasted something bitter. "It sounds like a furniture brand, dear. What about Amy? So much cuter." I tried to correct her time and time again. First, with a strained smile, explaining the meaning of the name, how much thought we'd put into it. But she just waved me off as if our carefully chosen name, the very identity of our daughter, was merely a suggestion she had every right to disregard. David, who'd been right there with me through the naming process, would simply stand by, offering no support. "My mom's set in her ways," he'd mumble later, a tired excuse as worn as the faded photographs on her mantelpiece, doing nothing to soothe the growing irritation simmering inside me. Each time Amara was cradled in her grandmother's arms, I'd hold my breath. The word Amy would slice through the air, piercing me deeper with every utterance. It wasn't just a wrong name. It was a blatant invalidation, a deliberate erasure. I'd glance at David, a silent plea in my eyes, begging him to intervene. But he, true to form, would either turn his head or offer a dismissive shrug, whispering his usual refrain. "She's just set in her ways." My patience wore thin, stripped away with each repeated misnaming. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was a calculated act of defiance. I felt torn between defending my daughter and maintaining the family harmony that David prioritized above all else. But every time she publicly dismissed Amara's name, especially in front of other relatives, something cold and unyielding would harden inside me. I knew unequivocally that this was where I had to draw the line. Our daughter, even at just 4 months old, deserved to be recognized, respected, and called by her chosen name. I refused to let her grow up in the shadow of someone else's preference, wondering why her own identity wasn't sacred to her grandmother. That Sunday dinner started out pleasantly enough. The clinking of silverware, the murmur of distant cousins I barely knew, all woven into a tapestry of comforting family sounds. But beneath it all, a subtle anxiety gnawed at me. I knew it was only a matter of time before my ML would swoop in, scoop up Amara, and the performance would begin. And I was right. My ML, with that radiant smile she reserved for public appearances, lifted Amara into her arms. My 4-month-old, wide-eyed and innocent, blinked up at her. Then my ML turned to a cousin, a bright, almost triumphant smile on her face. "Here, meet little Amy." The name Amy rang out clearly across the living room, a public declaration, a slap in my face right there in front of everyone. My heart seized in my chest. My entire body tensed, a hot flush of anger rising to my cheeks. My voice, sharper than I intended, cut through the air. "Mom, her name is Amara." She slowly turned back to me, her eyes flitting over me with an annoyed glance before rolling dramatically towards the ceiling. A gesture of blatant dismissal and contempt. "Whatever, same thing. I can't keep up with these weird names." Her voice rose, laced with challenge, tinged with a subtle, yet unmistakable sneer. The entire room fell silent for a beat, a heavy, suffocating quiet that screamed louder than any argument. In that agonizing moment, I looked at my daughter's innocent face, felt her tiny warmth against her grandmother's arm, and a cold, resolute fury settled deep within me. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was disrespect. This was an attack on my daughter's very identity, her right to be acknowledged, and our right as her parents to name her. I stood up, a quiet click echoing in the sudden silence as my chair scraped back. I didn't say another word. It felt as if a vital wire inside me had finally snapped. I gently yet firmly took Amara from her arms. My legs, seemingly on autopilot, carried me toward the front door. I could feel dozens of eyes boring into my back, but I didn't look around. I heard David's voice, a weak, bewildered call trailing after me. "Honey, wait." But I didn't stop. I walked out, the cool evening air a stark contrast to the burning conviction in my soul. The drive home was eerily silent, save for Amara's soft coos and the steady hum of the engine. The tension in the car was palpable, thick with unspoken accusations and the raw sting of a boundary crossed. As soon as we stepped into our quiet house, David turned on me, his face a mixture of anger and mortification. "You embarrassed me. Why did you have to make a scene in front of everyone, Rachel? The whole family was there." His priorities were glaringly obvious. His image, his family's approval, not the blatant disrespect shown to his wife and daughter. I placed Amara gently into her bassinet, then turned to face him, my gaze unwavering. "David, our daughter's name is not optional. It's not a joke. It's her name, and she deserves to be respected, starting with the name we chose for her." I spoke each word slowly, deliberately, wanting him to understand that this wasn't a petty squabble. This was fundamental. This was about who we are as a family and what we stand for. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, a telltale sign of his frustration, a familiar gesture when he felt cornered. "You know how my mom is. She's set in her ways. Can't you just let it go for once?" His voice held a mix of weariness and a desperate plea for normalcy. A bitter smile touched my lips. "Then she can be set in her ways without me and Amara around." The words hung in the air, cold and definitive. I knew from that moment on nothing would ever be the same. In the days that followed, our home became a fortress. David still went to work, still visited his mother, but Amara and I did not. The invisible wall between us and my MIL grew thicker, higher. I no longer entertained David's weak excuses because my stance was clear. If she couldn't respect Amara's name, she wouldn't have a place in Amara's life. My MIL, of course, didn't back down easily. Expensive gifts for Amara started arriving, each accompanied by a heavily scented, gold-embossed card signed Grandma Amy. I returned every single one. David tried to mediate, his voice a weary sigh. "Mom just wants to make nice, Rachel. Don't be so rigid." But I knew better. It wasn't about making nice. It was another test, another subtle jab, a constant reminder that she still refused to acknowledge our authority, our choice, our daughter's very identity. The calls to David intensified, a relentless barrage of complaints about me, tearing the family apart, about my controlling nature, about my forgetting my roots. He'd absorb it all, then relay it to me, heavy with his own exhaustion and frustration. I watched the growing chasm between David and me, wondering if our marriage could withstand this relentless pressure. He was the fragile bridge between me and his family, and I could feel him leaning more and more towards his mother's side. There were nights I questioned myself. Was I too harsh? Was I really sacrificing family peace over a name? But then I'd look at Amara, at her clear, trusting eyes, and I knew I was doing the right thing. I couldn't allow my daughter to grow up feeling invisible, her identity undermined. I'd had a taste of that myself in subtle ways, always feeling like I had to perform to please to earn my place. Amara wouldn't. My childhood had been a masterclass in quiet competence. I was the capable one, the big helper, the one who held the diaper bag and reminded Dad not to leave the stove on. By 10 I could cook 3 meals. By 12 I was walking Lily, my younger sister, to preschool, fixing her laces when they came undone, braiding her hair because Mom wasn't good at those things. Lily was the baby, all soft curls and soft stories. When she cried, everything stopped. When I cried, I was told I was being dramatic. At school events, Mom always made a scene, posing with Lily in the center, while I stood on the side holding someone's coat, an afterthought. Even our birthdays were telling. Hers were themed unicorns, dolphins, a rented pony one year. Mine, a cake from the freezer aisle, sometimes 2 days late. I used to think maybe I'd done something wrong, that maybe I wasn't lovable in the same way. But Grandma Eloise never made me wonder. She lived 3 blocks away in a small blue house with a cracked porch swing and an always full cookie jar. She didn't have much, but what she had, she shared without drama. Books, stories, time. She taught me how to balance a checkbook before I hit high school, how to fix a leaky faucet, and more importantly, how to breathe when it felt like no one saw me. When she got sick with lung cancer, I was 16. Mom couldn't handle hospitals and Dad worked late, so I went every day. I changed her bedding, learned the med schedule, sat through appointments, Listened to her stories about a life far grander than anyone gave her credit for. Lily came once, sat in the corner, posted a photo on Instagram and left early. But when Grandma passed, I was the one who found the will, tucked into a copy of Little Women of all places. She left her house to me, her car, a small savings account, and a note. You were the one who stayed, Rachel. Not because you had to, but because you saw me. It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was the first time someone had chosen me out loud, unequivocally. At the funeral, people whispered. Mom looked like she'd swallowed vinegar, barely concealing her displeasure. Lily, in white lace and dramatic eyeliner, barely made eye contact. Later that week, Lily pulled me aside. I know you got the house, she said, flipping her hair the way Mom did when she was cornered. But I'm kind of stuck. Rent's a mess. Could I crash for a bit? She moved in that weekend, stayed 6 months, never paid rent. Used my shampoo, my groceries, my car when I wasn't looking. When she left, she didn't say thank you. Just vanished. 3 years later, she was the one who told people I'd taken advantage of Grandma, called it weird that I'd inherited everything, said I'd manipulated an old woman for property. I never corrected her, never confronted her, because by then I understood something even colder than silence. They weren't forgetting me. They were rewriting me. But I still wonder, did Lily ever remember those nights I made her soup when she had the flu? Did she remember who held her through the thunder when Mom left the windows open? Or did those things just not matter anymore? After Lily moved out, I started locking my doors. Not just the front one, the invisible ones too. No more family group chats. No more, can you just look over this lease? Or it's just until payday. I moved to a one-bedroom condo closer to the university where I taught night classes. Sociology, mostly the kind of course people took because it was required, not because they cared. But I cared. I cared about the patterns, the systems, the ways people repeat what they swore they'd escape. I saved slowly, took on consulting gigs, said yes to the offers no one else wanted. Holiday shifts, curriculum audits, late-night Zooms with irritated donors. It was quiet work, but it paid. And in 4 years, I'd saved enough to start something that felt like mine. A nonprofit called Third Circle Education. We offered life skills workshops for teen girls aging out of foster care. How to read a lease, how to spot a predatory loan, how to write a resume without lying. They came in guarded, left taller. And when people asked what inspired it, I never said my family. But I always thought of Grandma Eloise, and how the people who need the most help often learn to ask the least. Then came the article. A local reporter, quiet, thoughtful, had sat through one of our sessions, wrote a piece called Me a Quiet Engine of Change. The headline was shared more times than I expected. It reached old classmates, former professors, even my parents. 2 weeks later, I noticed I'd been removed from Lily's Instagram entirely. Not just blocked, erased. Family wedding photos cropped. Childhood pictures reposted, captions edited. Just me and my guardian angels. She wrote under a photo where I had once stood between her and Mom. At first, I thought it was an algorithm thing, a glitch. But then I saw the old photo from my college graduation, the one I'd framed for Dad. In the new version, I wasn't in it. Someone had physically cut me out. I didn't even know people still did that. Scissors. Tape. New frame. No caption. Just a photo hanging in the background of Lily's kitchen in a video tour she posted when she moved into her dream home. I recognized the frame. I'd bought it. I didn't cry. But I stared at that empty space longer than I should have, and I wondered. When they rewrote the story, did they ever stop to ask who paid for the first chapter? It was a Tuesday afternoon. Rain on the windows, a cold leftover sandwich on my desk. I was editing grant proposals when the knock came. 3 firm taps. Then quiet. I wasn't expecting anyone. Most people called first or texted or didn't come at all. When I opened the door, they were standing there. My mother, my sister, and a man I'd never seen. Mid-40s, nice coat, wedding band. Lily's new husband, I would learn later. They looked rehearsed. Hair perfect. Clothes neat. Smiles forced. Rachel, Mom said, her voice half breathy, half familiar. As a family, we thought it was time. Time for what? They didn't ask to come in. They just did, brushed past me like it was still their right. I watched them settle into my living room. Lily curled into the corner of my couch, like she used to in high school, except now in heels, full makeup, like a woman playing a girl she barely remembered being. Her husband said nothing, just nodded politely, like he'd been told to stay out of it. Mom started with compliments. How proud she was, how she'd always known I'd do something meaningful, how she showed the article to some people at church. Then came the ask. Lily and her husband had started a business. Real estate marketing. It had promise, she said, but they needed startup capital. The bank wouldn't approve the full loan amount without a cosigner. Someone reputable. Someone with a proven record of stability. They wanted me to back them on paper. Just for a year, maybe less, Mom added, eyes wide. I know things were tense for a while, but family finds its way back, right? Lily didn't speak. She looked down at her hands, the way she used to before a lie. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I stood there watching them sit on my couch, a couch I bought in a home I built, asking for trust they never earned, with voices that had once called me ungrateful. I waited. Let the silence do the sorting. Finally, he cleared his throat. We'd like to invite you to a gathering. Your cousin Grant is getting married. Big celebration. Lots of people. It'd mean something if you showed up. I almost laughed. Not out of cruelty, just to the absurdity of it. They wanted me there not for reconciliation but for optics, because now my name meant something. The nonprofit had expanded. Third Circle was in 3 states. We'd partnered with the National Women's Leadership Fund. My face had been on the cover of a regional magazine. From Forgotten to Force. Said they didn't want me. They wanted her. The version of me that made them look good by proximity. I declined. Politely. Briefly. A week later, Aunt Marla called. She'd always been kind in a distant, teacup-rattling way. Said she understood why I was hurt. Said what Lily did was inexcusable. Then, just as softly, but maybe it's time to let it go, sweetheart. People are watching. Weddings are about joy. Don't bring the past into it. That was the line. Don't bring the past into it. As if the past was a purse I could choose not to carry. As if they hadn't already spilled it across the room and walked away. I didn't respond. Didn't go. Didn't post. That Saturday, when the wedding photos flooded social media, sunlight, champagne, a rented garden, I stayed in. Lit a candle. Read one of Grandma's old paperbacks. And when the doorbell rang just after dusk, I looked through the peephole. It was Lily. Alone. No makeup. Hair back. Eyes red. She didn't say anything. Just stood there waiting. I turned off the porch light and let the night answer for me. Lily never tried a third time. After that night on the porch, she didn't text. Didn't call. Didn't email some long apology asking for another chance. She disappeared into her world of curated reels and mid-morning yoga. And I stayed in mine. Not out of bitterness, just clarity. I no longer needed to be seen by them. I only needed to stop being rewritten. The silence that followed wasn't loud. It was exact. It filled only the space they used to take up. No more, no less. Last spring, I repainted the hallway. A soft gray. Clean. Calm. I took down the photos. All of them. Not in anger, just necessity. Dust had settled behind the frames. Time had moved ahead of them. When I almost left. A candid shot of Grandma Eloise and me, sitting on her porch swing with mismatched mugs of tea. No poses, no edits, just presents. But when I lifted the frame, I noticed something behind it, tucked flat against the wall. A second photo, folded, torn at the edges. It was from my college graduation, the full version. Me in the center, arms around Lily and Mom before they cut me out. Someone must have hidden it there. Maybe me, maybe not. I slid the torn photo from behind the glass. Didn't put it back. Didn't throw it away. I left the frame empty, hung it back in place. Not to mourn what was missing, but to remind myself what's gone doesn't need to be filled. It just needs to be named once quietly and then left alone. If they once erased your face from the picture, did you ever hang the frame back up?